Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are not just looking back. We are actively recommissioning ourselves. We are strapping on the rocket boots. We are loading up the mustard-shooting lumber technology. And we are stepping back into a world that I think, for many of us, defines a very specific, very loud, and very chaotic era of childhood.
It really does.
We were talking about Codename, Kids Next Door.
And it is a show that if you just glance at it, maybe you catch a rerun or see a clip online, it just looks like absolute chaos. It's colorful, it's screaming loud, the art style is super chunky, and it's, about 5 kids in a high-tech treehouse fighting adults.
Right.
But when you actually sit down and audit the material, which is exactly what we've done with this massive stack of here, it transforms. It stops being just a Saturday morning cartoon and starts looking like a surprisingly complex espionage thriller.
It really does. And the premise alone is it's high art. You have this global underground organization of children, the K&D, fighting a literal war against the tyranny of adult. And I want to be clear about that word, tyranny.
Right.
Because as we go through these sources, we're going to see that tyranny is a very subjective term when you are like 10 years old.
Exactly. To a 10-year-old operative, tyranny isn't just political oppression or, taxes. It's a bedtime before 9 p.m.
Yeah, that's tyranny.
It's the existence of dental. It's being told you have to eat the broccoli before you get the dessert. In the world of Codename, Kids Next Door, those mundane annoyances are treated as war crimes.
Absolutely.
The show takes the small indignities of being a kid and elevates them to the stakes of like a James Bond movie.
And they fight this war with 2x4 technology. I love this term. It's this aesthetic where everything is made of wood, duct tape, hamster wheels, and rusty nail. But it functions like high-tech sci-fi gear.
It's pure childhood imagination.
It is. It's physically manifested. You have laser guns that are clearly just a hairdryer taped to a colander, but in the show, they blow holes in walls.
It's brilliant visual storytelling. But the mission for this deep dive is a little different than just listing cool gadgets or, reminiscing about the theme song. We aren't just here to walk down memory lane. We have a comprehensive set of sources here that have meticulously broken down seasons 2, 4, 5, 6, and the movie Operation, ZER. And these sources have done something fascinating. They've conducted a morality audit of this.
I love this concept. Because when you watch it as a kid, you are firmly on the side of number 1 and Sector V. The adults are the villain. End of story.
Of course.
The adults are boring, they're mean, they want to make you do homework. But looking back, our sources are asking a pretty dangerous question. Were the villains actually right?
It is a valid question, and one that might ruin your childhood a little bit if you think about it too hard. Our sources highlight a really surprising statistic right off the bat, just to set the stage. Yeah. If you look at season 4, just as a sample set, the adults, the so-called villains, were actually objectively in the right about 1/3 of the time.
1/3. That is a massive percentage for a show where the antagonists are literally called villains. If I'm watching Batman, the Joker is not right 30% of the time.
No, not at all. It forces you to reevaluate the entire conflict. Are the K&D freedom fighters, or are they just bratty kids refusing to participate in society?
Right.
And beyond that moral gray area, there is a massive amount of lore hidden beneath the surface that we need to uncover. We're talking about a multi-generational family drama that rivals Star Wars or Game of Thrones.
Oh, the lore is so deep. I was shocked going through this. We're going to get into the tragedy of memory wipes, the secret history of the main character's family, and some plot twists that honestly hold up incredibly well.
They really.
So let's not waste any more time. Let's unpack this morality audit first.
Let's do it.
So the recurring segment in our source material question, who was in the wrong? And usually in a cartoon, the answer is the guy with the laser trying to blow up the moon. But here, it's not that simple.
No, it's not. Because while the K&D fight for freedom, their definition of freedom often clashes with, basic health and safety protocols. The show does this brilliant, subtle thing where it takes a child's perspective and exaggerates it to an 11.
Totally.
So if a parent wants you to brush your teeth, in the kid's mind, that parent isn't just a caregiver. They are a villain torturing you in a dungeon.
Which brings us to arguably one of the most memorable and genuinely terrifying villains in the series, Nightbrace.
Nightbrace is fantastic. He is a vigilante dentist, if you think about Batman, but replace the bat motif with oral hygiene products and a severe obsessive-compulsive disorder regarding sugar. You have Nightbrace.
And his backstory is surprisingly tragic.
Yeah.
Sources point out he was kicked out of dental school. Why? Because he tried to put braces on baby.
Which, to be fair, is medically unsound. Do not put braces on a baby.
A little eager, sure. Maybe a little ahead of his time.
No, definitely just crazy.
Yeah, probably just crazy.
But his goal is to stop candy from rotting children's. In the episode Operation, TEETH, the K&D, are fighting to protect a candy store. They want unfettered access to sugar. They want to gorge themselves until they are sick.
Is there?
Nightbrace intervenes. Now, his methods are extreme. He uses a fluoride blaster and ties kids to chairs, but his motivation, he is trying to prevent cavity.
Technically, he is a healthcare provider. He's a first responder in the war on gingivitis.
Technically, yeah. If you look at it objectively, rotting teeth are bad. Gum disease. Night Brace is the only person in the room advocating for wellness. The kids are fighting for the right to have their...
But he's doing it by forcibly brushing their teeth. I remember the sound design in those episodes, the high-pitched whine of the drill. It was visceral.
Which is exactly how a dentist appointment feels to a scared child. That's the genius of the writing. It validates the fear, this guy is attacking me with a drill, while the adult audience nods and says, yeah, but you really do need that filling or you're going to lose that mole.
It gets even grosser, and the morality gets even murkier with Operation Ducky in Season 5. This one had me laughing just reading the summary in our notes.
Oh, this was a classic.
It features Tommy, who is Numbutu's little brother.
The Tommy. He's a chaotic force of nature. He doesn't even have a number. He's just the Tommy.
And in this episode, he refuses to take a bath. He is covered in filth. He smells. And the episode turns into this incredible stylistic parody of Star Trek.
It's brilliant. The bathtub becomes deep space. Tommy becomes Captain James P. Dirt. He has a crew of dirty sock puppets, and they are fighting against a villain who is essentially a giant rubber duck entity trying to clean them.
A parody of William Shatner called Captain James P. Dirt.
Yes, he does the stilted delivery and everything. We must stay dirty. It's a perfect Shatner impression. But let's look at the antagonist here. The monster is just the captain's mom. She has been trying to get him to take a shower for, in the show's warped logic, 36
years.
Imagine that smell. Take a second to imagine a child who has a year and a half, and Tommy fighting back, plungers, rhyme. He is actively fight for the right.
Yeah, I think we have to side with the adults on that one. If you haven't watched in 36 years, you are the villain of that story. You are a public health risk. You are patient zero.
Precisely. And then you have Operation LIC. This is where the lines get. You have Grandma Stuff'em, who is food-based villain. She's essentially the archetype of the grandmother who insists you have enough.
Eat your skin and bones.
Yeah.
She attacks you with giant liver and onion, which as a kid is a fate worse than death.
It really is. But in this episode, the conflict revolves around a lice. The lice are destroying the kids' stuffed animals, and it turns into a war movie parody, very Saving Private Ryan, but with bugs. But the source of the conflict, it's a hat passed around by the delightful children from down
the creepiest kids in history. We will get to them later because there is so much there.
And they are spreading lice intentionally. The adults, or at least the concept of hygiene, are trying to stop a parasitic infestation. The kids are just passing it back and forth because they want the cool hat.
So they're fighting for the right to have lice.
It's hard to say the freedom to have head lice is a noble cause for the KND.
It's really not. I mean, nobody wants lice. So hygiene is a big battlefield where the kids are often wrong. But what about safety? Because there's freedom and then there's just recklessness. The sources mention Operation CLOS.
This is where the unreliable narrator aspect of the show really shines. The kids perceive safety measures as literal monsters. In Operation CLOSET, the premise is that a kid named Billy refuses to wear his winter coat or clean his messy closet.
A classic struggle. It's not cold, says the kid, while it's snowing sideways.
And in the episode, the coat is treated as this Yeti-like monster, the abominable snow jacket that's trying to swallow him whole.
Which is exactly what it feels like when your mom bundles you up in 5 layers of snow gear and you can't move your arms. You feel like you're being eaten by the coat. You're just as stiff starfish in a snowsuit.
Exactly. But the villain here is just the concept of not freezing to death. The source material points out a great detail. At the end, Billy is eventually crying because the jacket gets shrunk in the wash. He actually bonded with the monster. But the initial conflict, it's a kid refusing to dress appropriately for sub-zero weather.
There's another one called Operation BEACH, where Numbo 3 Kooky gets kidnapped by the Knights of the Round Towel.
And their crime. They want her to stay out of the dangerous sun and sand. They want her to be safe. It's overprotective, sure. Maybe a little helicopter parenting, but evil?
No, not really.
They aren't trying to hurt her. They are trying to prevent skin cancer and sand in the eyes.
It's the classic, don't go in the water until 30 minutes after you eat. Rule taken to the extreme. But here's where it gets really interesting. Sometimes the kids just completely misunderstand what the adults are doing.
Yes.
It's not even that they disagree. They just don't get the context because they are children.
This is a huge theme. The disconnect between the child world and the adult world. Look at Operation POINT. The kids hear about a place called The Point on a mountain where teenagers go and become adults.
They think it's a factory or a machine that zaps you into adulthood, right? Like a soul-sucking transformation chamber where you go in cool and come out doing taxes.
They think it's a facility that strips away your childhood joy. They go to destroy it. They launch a full assault, risking life and limb. And what do they find when they get there?
What is it?
It's a roller
rink.
A roller rink for teen night. The becoming an adult thing was just a metaphor for teenagers hanging out and doing teenager things. Skating, listening to music, maybe holding hands.
Oh.
The Kates and D were about to blow up a roller rink because they didn't understand a figure of speech.
That is amazing. It really captures that confusion you have as a kid where you hear snippets of adult conversation and your imagination just fills in the blanks with the wildest scenarios. Teen night at the point becomes a sinister ritual.
It happens again in Operation ARCTIC. The kids attack a research facility because they think the scientists are building a weather machine to stop snow days.
Which would be a legitimate act of war, by the way. No snow days. That is tyranny. If someone cancels a snow day, that is a villain.
It would be evil. But it turns out the scientist, Professor Triple Extra Large, isn't stopping snow. He's trying to create the world's most perfect snow cone.
A noble pursuit.
A scientific breakthrough, and the K&D are actively sabotaging. So when you look at the scorecard our source compiled, you start to see why the villains were right. Column is so full. The adults are often just trying to make snow cones, prevent frostbite, or fix cabin.
It's funny because to the listener, this might sound like we're ruining the magic, but for me, it actually makes the show better. It makes it a brilliant satire of how kids see the world. It's not just random, it's psychologically grounded.
It adds a layer of realism to a show about hamster-powered lasers. It validates the child's feeling that the world is out to get them, while winking at the adult audience who knows, yeah, kid, you really do need to wear that coat or you will get hypothermia.
Okay, so we've established that the morality is a bit fuzzy and the kids are often wrong about the wet, but let's go deeper. Because the stakes in this show aren't just about getting grounded or brushing teeth. There is a very real, very dark threat hanging over every single operative, the decommission.
This is the central tragedy of the series. This is where the show stops being funny and starts being heartbreak. It's the rule of 13.
Explain that for us, because this is the mechanic that drives the whole plot.
The Kids Next Door organization has a strict policy. It is their prime directive. When an operative turns 13 years old, they are considered compromised. They are on the verge of becoming teenagers, and teenagers are the enemy. They are the gate to adulthood.
Right.
So they are decommissioned.
And decommissioned isn't just, you're fired or thanks for your service, here's a gold watch.
No. Their memories of the KND are wiped. They are forcibly made to forget their friends, their missions, their entire identity as heroes. They are sent back to live a normal, boring life, unaware that they ever...
It's essentially a metaphor for the death of childhood. You lose your magic. You lose your memories of the adventures. It's puberty presented as a tragic event where you lose your soul.
And the show treats it with serious emotion. There is an episode, Operate CAKED F5 that deals with a character, Numbu.
The name alone is great.
He was a K&D operative from the 1800s who got frozen in ice Pacific, a giant ice cream cake project that went...
Naturally. That's a workplace hazard in the K&D, industrial ice cream accidents.
When he is revived in the present day, he is technically hundreds of years old, but biologically still a child. He teams up with Numbo 86 Fanny Fulbright.
Right. She's the head of decommissioning.
She is. And she's usually very tough, very loud, very I hate boy. But in this episode, they actually form a connection.
A time-displaced romance.
It's sweet. He's old-fashioned, chivalrous. He treats her with respect, and she falls for him. But the tragedy strikes at the end. Because he is from the 19th century, he is chronologically an adult. He is way past.
Cool.
So despite saving the day, despite the connection they formed, Numbo 86 has to do her job. The rules are the rules.
She has to wipe his mind.
It's to decommission him. He forgets everything, the mission, the KND, and her. He wanders off just a confused kid in a strange time, and Numbo 86 is left heartbroken. It's a devastating ending that emphasizes the ruthlessness of this war. Can't stop time.
That is heavy for a show that also features a villain named the Toiletnator, a guy who fights with toilet paper.
It balances that tone incredibly well. And this fear of turning 13 leads to some of the most interesting plot twists regarding double agent. Because as the series went on, we learned that not everyone who turns 13 just disappears.
Right. Let's talk about the teen operatives, because for a long time we thought teenagers were just the bad guys.
Yeah.
Temply, angry, loud, music-listening bad guys who just want to make kids miserable.
We did. But then came Operation. MAURICE. Numbu 9, Maurice, was a legendary op. Cool, competent, everything an operative should. When he was decommissioned, everyone was devastated.
Yeah.
Numbu 5 especially took it hard, but it is revealed later that he wasn't memory wiped. He was recruited.
Into what?
A secret splinter cell of teen operatives. They work undercover.
So they pretend to be bad.
Exactly. They pretend to be evil teenagers. They put on the attitude. They get the acne. They listen to the bad music. But they are actually spies for the KND, protecting the organization from the inside.
That blows the whole world wide open. It means the war, if in as black and white as aid, it's about loyalty. And this recontextualizes another major character, Chad, Numbo 274.
This was the biggest betrayal in my childhood. Chad was the supreme leader of the KND. He was the golden boy. He was who number one wanted to be. And then he turned 13.
And he went rogue.
He seemingly went rogue. He beat up his old teammates. He joined the villains. He became a jerk. It was a massive heel turn. It was like Hulk Hogan joining the INWO.
I remember watching that and feeling genuinely betrayed. He was the hero. I had his poster on my mental wall.
But in Operation TREATY in Season 6, we get the vindication. The sources break this down beautifully. Chad was never evil. He was an undercover operative the entire time.
Oh, way.
He sacrificed his reputation, his friendships, everything to protect the KND from the teenage villains. He had to let his friends hate him so he could save them.
That is such a sophisticated character arc. It's like the Dark Knight. He's the hero they deserve, but not the one they need right now.
But, and this is important, not every teenager is a good guy, and we have to talk about
Cree Lincoln, Numbeehive's older sister.
Cree is the counterpoint. She was a legendary KND operative. But when she turned 13, she actually turned. She became the leader of the Ninja Teens. She actively tries to destroy the KND.
And that adds so much personal drama for Number 5. It's not just fighting Teen, it's fighting her big sister, who she used to look up.
It makes the conflict personal. It shows that growing up really can change you. It's not just a misunderstanding. Some people lose that spark and become cynical or cruel.
Right.
The sibling rivalry between Number 5 and Cree is one of the emotional anchors. Number 5 is constantly holding back because she still loves her sister, but Cree has no such hesitation.
It's fascinating how the show handles these layers. You have the funny, misunderstanding layers with the snow cones, and then you have this deep, tragic layer of losing your family to age.
Speaking of family, we have to talk about the Uno family, because if you think the teen drama is complex, wait until we get to ZERO. This is where the show goes from kids versus adults to a Shakespearean family tragedy.
This is the big one. This is the Luke, I am your father moment of the series.
It really is. The movie Operation ZERO drops a revelation that completely rewrites.
So let's set the scene. We spent the whole series knowing Number 1, Nigel Uno. He's the serious workaholic leader, and his dad.
Mm-hmm.
His dad, Monty Uno, is kind of a doofus.
A total doofus. He's the classic, bumbling, clueless cartoon dad. He plays the sousaphone badly. He's oblivious to his son's missions. He tells boring stories.
Just completely checked out.
But in the movie, we learn the truth. Nigel's dad is Numbu Zero.
The founder.
The founder of the Kids Next Door. The legend, the Atom. He was the one who started the revolt against the cleaning up world. He led the first generation of kids against the tyranny of adults. He found the Book of KND.
And he had his memory wiped, right? That's why he's like that.
Yeah, but in the move to save the world, Nigel has to find a way to recommission his own father. He has to bring Numbu Zero back.
And who are they fighting? This is where it gets really interesting.
They are fighting an entity called Grandfather. Grandfather is the ultimate evil. He ruled the world before Numbu sucked him. He forced everyone to work in tapioca factories.
Which is just a brilliant metaphor for boring, gray, tasteless adulthood. A tapioca factory. That sounds miserable.
Exactly. But here is the family tree. Grandfather is Numbu Zero's father.
Okay, so grandfather is Nigel's literal grandfather.
Yes, and we know the main villain of the series is father, the shadowy guy in the suit with the pipe who gets angry and turns into fire.
Right, the silhouette guy.
Father is grandfather's son, which means father is Numbu Zero's brother.
Which means father is Nigel's uncle.
Benedict Uno. The entire series, the war between Numbu 1 and the ultimate villain, it's a family feud. It's an uncle trying to discipline his nephew.
That is mind-blowing. Takes this global espionage story and makes it intimately domestic. It's all about a dysfunctional family.
It explains why father is so obsessed with the Number 1 specific. He hates Nigel, not just because he's a KND agent, but because he reminds him of his brother, Monty. He sees the rebellion of his brother and his nephew, and he wants to crush it.
And it explains father's own trauma.
Yes, father was the son who didn't rebel. He was the good son who stayed loyal to grandfather, the tyrant. Numbo Zero rebelled. It's a story about cycles of abuse and breaking free from your parents' expectations. Father is still trying to please his daddy, grandfather, even as an adult. He's stuck in his own childhood trauma.
And speaking of tragedy in this family dynamic, we have to mention the delightful children from down the lane.
Hello.
Because this kept me up at night as a kid.
Oh, this is perhaps the darkest lore in the show, maybe in any cartoon of that era.
Because there are these creepy hive mind kids who always speak in unison. Hello, Nigel. They move together. They never smile properly.
But Operation ZERO reveals who they really are. They weren't always like that. They were the legendary Sector Z. They were the missing KND sector.
The cool kids.
The coolest. They were the heroes of the previous generation. But they were captured by father, their uncle figure in a weird way, and subjected to a delightfulization chamber.
It's basically a lobotomy machine.
It is. They were brainwashed, stripped of their individuality, and fused into this hive mind to become the obedient, perfect children he wanted. It's body horror. It's The Fly meets Stepford Wives.
And in the movie, there is this brief, shining moment where they are turned back.
Yes. The machine is reversed. They become Sector Z again. They have their own voices. They help the K&D. It's triumphant, but the process is unstable.
They don't get saved.
No. They revert. The delightfulization takes hold again. They are lost. It's a permanent tragedy. It shows that not everyone can be saved.
That is incredibly dark for a show on Cartoon Network. You usually expect the heroes to save everyone.
It's surprisingly mature, and it culminates in Nigel's choice at the end of the movie. He recommissions his dad, Numbu Zero, to fight grandfather. They win. But then Numbu Zero has to...
Does he stay as the cool hero? Does he stay as Zero?
He realizes that if he stays recommissioned, he's an operative, soldier. But Nigel doesn't need a fellow operative. He needs a dad, even if that dad is a bumbling player.
He chooses to be the boring dad.
He chooses to have his memory wiped again. He sacrifices his coolness and his memories of glory to ensure his son has a normal life. He breaks the cycle of grandfather's bad parenting by being present, even if he's clueless.
That hits you right in the feels. It's acknowledging that being a boring adult is actually a sacrifice made for the child's benefit.
Precise. It redeems the clueless dad archetype. He's not clueless because he's stupid. He's clueless because he loves his son enough to let him have his own adventure.
Wow. Okay, let's take a breath. We've covered the heavy lore, but the show is also driven by its main cast, Sector V, and our sources have some great deep dives on the characters themselves. Let's run through the squad, because the chemistry there is what sold the show.
Let's start with the leader, Numbu 1, Nigel Uno.
The bold British workaholic.
We finally get confirmation he is indeed bald. There's an episode, Operation WHITEHOUSE, which is a dream sequence where he becomes president. In the dream, he has a full head of hair, but that just highlights that in reality, he doesn't. He's insecure about it.
And his relationship with Lizzie, we touched on it, but it's fascinatingly toxic. Lizzie isn't in the K&D, she's a civilian.
It's a very realistic portrayal of a young, messy relationship where the priorities don't align. Lizzie is overbearing. She essentially forces him to date her. There's an episode where she uses a mind control helmet, the boyfriend helmet, to make him compliant.
Which is, yikes, that hasn't aged well.
Huge red flag. But interestingly, in Operation, GIRLFRIEND, she's the one who dumps him.
Really? I always assumed he would dump her because of the mission.
No, because Nigel cannot balance his work-life dynamic. He is married to the job, he prioritizes the K&D over her constantly, and she eventually realizes she deserves better. It's a surprising moment of growth for both of them. Nigel realizes he can't have it.
Moving on to number 2, Hoagie Gilligan, the pilot, the engineer, the pun master.
Hoagie is the heart of the team in many ways, but the source material highlights his detective persona. He has these recurring episodes that are straight up Chinatown or Maltese Falcon parodies.
Operation CUS.
Yes, where he plays a noir detective solving crimes like who stabbed the rainbow monkey. The visuals turn stark black and white, and there's a scene where the Tommy, his little brother, eats the evidence. It's a perfect homage to the genre.
And we mentioned the To-Be-Thon episode earlier regarding it.
Right. Operation CAKEDFOUR. Hoagie idolizes his dad, thinking he was a champion inner tube racer. It turns out Dad lost every year.
Which crushes Hoagie at first.
But he learns why he lost. He lost because he stopped to save other kids who were in trouble on the river. He wasn't a champion. He was a hero. That's a great distinction.
It reinforces that Hoagie's values come from a good place. He's not just about winning. He's about helping. Then we have the power couple, Numbu 3 and Numbu 4, Kooky Sandman and Wallaby Beetles.
The classic will they, won't they. You have the tough guy, Numbu 4, who hates everything girly, and Numbu 3, who loves rainbow monkeys and happiness.
But secretly, Wallaby is crazy about her. It's the worst kept secret in the treehouse.
Obvious. But what's fascinating is how the show plays with Wallaby's masculinity. Our source points out that Numbu 4 is frequently put in gender bending.
He gets sent to an all-girls boarding school in one episode, right?
Yes, and he wears a dress in Operation PLANET, the Planet of the Apes parody, where he's put on trial by rain. He's often forced to confront his rigid ideas of what it means tough. He learns that being tough isn't about hating things.
And kooky. She seems ditzy, but she's actually terrifying when she gets angry.
The berserker. When her rainbow monkeys are threatened, she becomes the most dangerous operative on the team. She breathes fire. It's a fun subversion of the cute girl trope. Don't mess.
And finally, the cool. Number 5, Abigail.
Second in command, voiced by the legendary Cree Sum. She's the anger. When Nigel goes off the rails with paranoia, Abby brings him back. Smartest.
And she has her own nemesis, Heinrich von Marzipan.
This is a long-running arc about Candy, very Indiana Jones. They are rivals searching for rares, but there is a massive twist in Operation Caramel regarding Heinrich.
What's the twist?
Heinrich blames Number 5 for a curse that ruined his life. It turns out the curse took away his sweetness. When the curse is lifted, it's revealed that Heinrich is a girl. Henrietta. She was a girl who lost her sugar and became a bitter, mean boy rival. It's a strange, magical realism twist that fits perfectly in the Candy.
It's also worth noting that Number 5's voice actress, Cree Summer, also voices her evil sister, Cree.
And she sings the theme song. She's incredibly talented. The show uses her singing ability in a few episodes, too, like the lullaby scene in the hospital.
Speaking of production secrets, this show was filled with pop culture references that went way over our heads as kids.
Oh, absolutely. The writers were clearly having.
We talked about Star Wars. Operation SNOWING is a shot-for-shot parody of the Battle of Hoth.
But instead of AT walkers, you have school bus walkers. And the villain, Jimmy, is dressed as Darth Vader, Master President. It's incredible.
But then there are the obscure ones, G-War.
Yes. The shock rock band G-War. They appear in FOODFI. They are credited as Gwar, or a variation of it. They recorded original music show.
The song about dead monkey pudding.
Which is classic G-War. It's wild that they got them on a Cartoon Network show. That's a band known for spraying fake blood on.
And the Billy and Mandy crossover. The Grim Adventures of the KND.
A legendary crossover. But our source mentions a lost plotline. Originally, the writers wanted Mandy to command an army of pants-eating ants.
Pants-eating ants.
And it was going to culminate in a We Are the World style charity song about saving pants.
And the network said no.
The network said no. They just didn't get it. Which, honestly, brings us to the censorship point. The show was constantly pushing boundaries.
There's the safety episode, right? Operation SAFE2Y.
That entire episode is a meta-commentary. A senator tries to wrap the whole world in bubble wrap to keep kids safe. That was the creators venting their frustration with the network's standards and practices department, constantly telling them to tone down the violence.
You can't show a kid getting hit with a 2x4. Okay, we'll make a robot that prevents anyone from getting hit with anything.
It's passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
And then there's Operation, SPANKE and STEIN.
The Thanksgiving episode.
It was supposed to feature an army of undead spanking turkeys.
Undead spanking turkey. I can see why the network paused.
The network said it was too Halloween-y for Thanksgiving, so they had to change. But the fact that undead spanking turkeys was even pitched shows you where the writers' heads were at.
I love the visual style of the show, too. Everything is so chunky and oversized.
Mr. Warburton, the creator, calls the shoe design Juhugik.
Real cute.
It's a made-up word. He was inspired by a Ramones album cover where the band members are wearing these massive sneakers. He wanted the K&D characters to have that same stompy, punk rock.
And it works. It gives them such a distinct silhouette. And in the later seasons, they started using CGI for the big vehicles.
Which was a big deal at the time. In Operation, ZERO, the moon base, and the treehouse are rendered in 3D. It looks a little dated now, but back then it gave the movie this blockbuster.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our deep dive, which means we have to talk about the end of the series, the finale, Operation INTERVIEWS.
This is a tearjerker. It uses a framing device where we see live-action interviews with the operatives as adults.
Wait, live action. Real people.
Yes. We see an adult Number 3 who is now a CEO of the Rainbow Monkey Corporation. We see an adult Number 4 who claims he went to Harvard, though the source notes that is highly debatable. Maybe.
And Number 2 and 5 got married.
They did, and Number 3 and 4 got married. The ship set sail. Everyone grew up and found happiness.
But someone is missing. Number 1. Nigel is not in the interviews.
Nigel is missing. The interview reveals the final mission. Nigel was recruited by the Galactic Kids Next Door, the GK and an interstellar version of the Organ.
So there are aliens. The war extends to the stars.
There are aliens fighting adult tyranny across the galaxy. And Nigel was chosen to join them. There was a catch. He had to leave Earth. He had friend. Never.
He had to choose the mission over his life.
And he did. He leave. There is this beautiful final scene. Number 5 has become the new leader of Sector V. She expects Nigel to shake her hand, a formal professional bye.
Because Nigel's always professional. He's the boss.
But he doesn't shake her hand. He hugs her.
Oh.
It's this rare crack in his armor. He loves his team, but he knows he belongs to the mission. He flies off into space, and he never grows up. He stays an operative forever.
That is bittersweet. His friends grow up, they get married, they become adults, but hopefully good adults. And Nigel just keeps fighting.
There was actually a tease for a sequel series years later involving the Galactic KND. A viral animatic showed a darker, older Nigel returning to Earth.
But as a villain.
As an antagonist.
Yeah.
The idea was that the galactic K&D considers adulthood a virus. They are extremists. They wanted to wipe out all adults on Earth, and Nigel would have to fight his old friends who had grown up.
Oh, that would have been heartbreaking. Number 1 versus Sector V.
It never got picked up, but it shows that the creator, Mr. Warbert, always saw the conflict as something with serious consequence, not just a game.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at the morality, the lore, the family secrets, Codename. Kids Next Door wasn't just a silly show about snot cannons.
No, it was a saga about the inevitability of change. Every kid wants to stay a kid forever. We all fear the day we become boring adults who care about dental hygiene and floss.
The villains, the adults, were often just people trying to keep kids safe and healthy. But when you're 10, that feels like oppression.
Exactly. The show validates that childhood feeling, the anger at the rules, but the ending accepts that growing up is necessary. The tragedy of the delightful children and the sacrifice of Numbu Zero show us that if you try to control everything, if you try to stop time or force perfection, you lose your humanity.
And that leads us to our final thought.
It does. I want you to think about you have Nigel, who flies off into space to remain a hero, a child, an operative forever. He never ages. He never stops fighting. And then you have his friends, Hoagie, Abby, Kooky, Wallaby. They grow up, they leave the treehouse, they build lives.
Who had the better ending?
Is it better to be Peter Pan fighting pirates forever in Neverland, or is it better to grow up?
That is a question that hits harder the older you get.
It certainly does.
Well, on that note, go call your dentist. Maybe they aren't a supervillain after all. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Stay young, listeners.
But brush your teeth.